everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Hua. If you are new, thank you for dropping in. Take a listen and feel free to leave me any comments. For my longtime listeners, welcome back. Today I will be sharing a historical horror called The Broken Promise I wrote for you to enjoy. So let us go back in time to yesterday, shall we?
You tossed me like a stone. You swept me off my feet. I can feel my bones. I still count the days. You swept me off my feet. I keep going high, she keeps going low. Something feels wrong right now, I know. Something feels wrong. You don't wait for me, 'cause I keep breathing fire. I won't wait for you, 'cause you keep telling lies. I keep going.
Bellamy. The hunger to be loved is real, and it's not just for the mortals alone. It is a hunger that strikes you no matter who you are or what you look like. For centuries, people have been writing about the majestic world of dragons, the beauty of our kind, and the tales that were buried beneath the dirt. For so long, mortals hungered to be like us and to be loved by our kind because we were timeless when it came to aging. We could transform ourselves into anything and become the greatest love story ever written. Due to our nature of living, anytime we neared someone of another realm, the sickness progressed in them and spells were created to keep us apart from them. Their mortal partner fought to keep their beloved with them. So where does the hunger for love come into question? By me, when my king has lost his sight for me and chases a mortal who ages. Yes, I am jealous. I am jealous of her thick hair and her laughter that bubbles out of her perfect Cupid bow-shaped lips. I am jealous when she sheds tears because her flesh broke from a fall and the man beside her kisses it away. I am jealous because my husband is watching her silently, wishing he could be the one whose lips touches her. He inserts himself into her dreams, creating a world of fantasy for them, while I watch his body shake with pleasure from taking her mortal form into his soul. I am jealous. I am Bellamy, the queen of Lavish Mountain. I've carried 14 of his children and have lived for 6 centuries. The beauty in me has never aged, and upon one single glance, the men who watch this kingdom fall to their knees in desire for me. I can get any man in the kingdom, except the man whose name I am tied to. I cannot win his heart, and he left me a broken promise of eternity when he stumbled upon her one afternoon. Her name is Lena, a 36-year-old overworked bartender who lives in an apartment on the side of Brooklyn and drives a green Ford Focus. She eats mussels drenched with sriracha like no tomorrow, sings off-key in the shower, and when she's in the mood to be loved, her eyes simply become hooded. The man beside her is Hayden, a rich, spoiled senator's son from the West Coast who is purposely living with her to taint his father's image and reputation because he's been ignored as a child. Together, the two of them flock their romance on the cover of people's magazines, and everywhere they go, he always opens the door and pulls out the chair for her. And while I am jealous of my husband, he is jealous of Hayden. We all are jealous of another. 6 centuries of desiring a man who implanted his seed in me and yet leaves the morning after without a single word of love. I am surprised I haven't aged with what is going on in my poor life. I have been told by many to endure and to just simply be the bigger-hearted person. How much can a heart take before it is broken? And if bruised, can it lose its way from home? Perhaps, but this isn't a love story. It's a tale of how I used my anger to horrify everyone around me and created the bloodiest battle against my own husband. He had been gone for 2 weeks, absent from home and bed, forcing himself into the dreams of a mortal who thought him to be her own lover. A seduction that would soon leave him dry if he continues. But for my husband, Dragon Lair King Waldemar, his thoughts are not to be tampered with. Decisions were made, and if voted against, he simply put you out without a single care in the world. My silence wasn't because I was agreeing. It was because I was exhausted of being left unheard. When I arrived in the main hall, the servants, dressed in gold, were repainting the trims on the walls, getting ready for the new year. I found him sitting at the table eating lotus seeds and grinning from ear to ear. "A pleasant morning, my lord, for the presence of you graces our hall," I said. Waldemar lifted his eyes and paused to look at me. He waved the servants around him away and stood up, pushing his chair back in a manner that made him look frightening. "And yet being present here already tells me my absence is being missed somewhere else. Your beauty alone can grace the hall, my lady, but I am required elsewhere." He turned to go, and I walked to block his path. His eyes darkened as he took a step back and glared at me with his dark eyes. The long dark hair that fell around his broad shoulders were enticing me to reach out to brush it away, but I kept my hand at bay. "My lord, your absence has created a hole in my heart as much as the palace. With your return, I would like to request you to walk with me to the morning prayer. Perhaps some cleansing of soul and body can help your mind to think freely." Smiling, he replied, "My mind is freely pure, my lady. Perhaps if yours is fogged with impaired thoughts, you can go ask the priest to cleanse yourself. Regarding me and my mind, keep distance, and you shall receive a smile from me." Anger fumed me, and I lost control over my emotions. "An intimate ache for a mortal whose flesh can sag. Is this what you desire, my lord? Immortality kisses me, and yet you stand here and remove my love from your heart." "My lady, who says I had love placed in my heart for you to begin with? An agreement made to please my father was to wed you and give you heir. Have I not done that? Heirs of us surround the palace halls, and I still keep you at my side as queen. What more does your greedy heart desire?" Pain struck me, and I felt tears well up in my eyes. Greedy heart? Such words you dare to describe me, my lord. The woman who has endured your unspeakable horrors for centuries and greedy has become me. Might I remind you whose bed you were in last night? It certainly was not mine. You want something you are not allowed to even fantasize about, and you return with a scent that masks these walls with lies. How can you stand before me and proclaim to be so mighty and brave when weak is what you truly are?" With one roar, his nostrils blared, and his whiskers emerged from his cheeks, tearing his flesh, as he took the dragon form and wrapped his long tail around me, crushing me.
"Mind your words, my lady. Husband as I have the right to fulfill the pleasures I need. You are to remain here as the perfect image of a queen. Alone or not, loved or hated, you are to remain ever so perfectly put together. Dare to defy my orders, and I shall cut your tail and feed it to the wolves. I know how much you enjoy the night sky roams, my lady, so do not test my anger."
He dropped me, and I crumbled to the floor as he transformed back to his mortal self and lowered himself to lift my chin up to look at him. The scales from his hold had pierced my skin, and while bleeding, my flesh was already beginning to heal itself gently. "Stay away from my affairs, my lady. Speak well, or else tongue will be shredded." He turned and left as I struggled to stand. Once I was on my feet again, my heart sank at the thought of being completely left behind by him. He had no fear in hurting me or making sure I felt unwanted. Fine. While he visited his dear beloved in dreams of love, I shall gift her the horror of who I was.
Stone cold. Now I know what you are. Broke my soul when you sat in his car. Yeah, you can keep digging gold, cause I know that you need it. Just never mind that you left my heart bleeding. I hope you know that there's no way I'll take you back. You should've loved me better than. You should've loved me better than. Me better than. You should've loved me better than. Me better than.
Lena. He came again. I hate those dreams. I can't seem to find any peace when the light goes out. As soon as the lights are turned off, the pile of clothes birth hands and legs and begin to rise as a demon circulating my bed, peering at me with hollow eyes and teeth that are clattering together. When the fan air blows on top of me, it is like an evil breath that is being released from something at the foot of my bed, ready to devour my uncovered feet. When I slightly open my eyes an inch, I can see a figure with dark hair, a mass of hair follicles that are thin and greasy, matted to a thin skull peeking at me from between my feet. It is ready to scratch my flesh and drink in my silent screams. And as I try to open my mouth, it jumps and lands on me, the weight of an elephant crushing my chest. The wicked cackle that spirals from its ripped jaws echoing in my ears, and I can't move. I am pinned down, and I can hear its ugly pants of pleasure as it tries to seduce me. My boyfriend is sleeping right beside me, and yet he is as deaf as a corpse. By the time the entity is done having its fill of pleasure for me and I am wet with gross fluid exchange, does Hayden wake up and ask if I am okay. By then I am exhausted, disgusted, and I get up to shower to rid the smell from me. It's been happening for years now, but it didn't start out this way. I should say that I invited him in because I was in a bad place of my life pretending to smile when it hurt, and I was broken in so many places of my heart. I had a boyfriend back then who had gotten me pregnant, and when I confronted him about getting married to save the faces of my parents, he fled from me. I guess he didn't really love me. I was 6 weeks pregnant, and as I sat on my cold tile bathroom floor sobbing, my mother called me to ask why I wasn't at the dinner. I broke down and told her what was going on. And before she could offer her kind words to me, my father ripped the phone from her and disowned me. I was a horrible daughter, a mistake, a regret. I was now dead to him. The dial tone of him hanging up left me crying even harder, and 2 days after that conversation, my 6 week fetus came out of me in bloody pieces in the toilet. The blood that ran down my legs stained the tiles and was hard to get out. Even now, when I look at the floor, I can remember exactly which tile I had laid on while blood pooled around me. And while wearing a heavy always tampon on my underpants and shot full of Tylenol pills, I arrived to the lake near my apartment in Brooklyn and poured my heart out to the openness of the waters. I admit, a part of me hoped something there would reach out and take me in to remove all the pain I felt and to make my parents regret ever disowning me. I wanted to hear them cry and plead at my headstone about regret and offer apologies. I wanted to hurt them just as much as they had hurt me, maybe even more. I was there for 3 hours, and when I returned home with an over-soaked pad and bloody pants, I fell to the bed and dreamt of a handsome man who comforted me in his arms and kissed away the pain. He first came as this handsome man, long dark hair with broad shoulders, and spoke so gently that it carved healing into my soul. But I saw him only in my dreams, and when he made love to me, it was pleasures I'd never experienced before in my life. But it also drove me to fear my dreams because I would wake up feeling as if something did happen. Slowly, my frustration with my parents went away and a feeling of something else crept in. It was a feeling of being watched secretly and being robbed of my human self. A year later, I met Hayden when he came in the bar where I worked, and instantly we were attracted to one another. I had been absent from a relationship since the bad breakup, and when Hayden showed up, all the bad boy presentation, like the ones I'd had before him, my heart made me want him. We had a night of passionate lovemaking, and yet I was surprised to find him still with me the next morning. That was how I knew that the bad boy was an exterior to his hurt, and that he would take care of me. He was a senator's son who had a plan to hurt his father for the lies he created to the public. And I was a girl who needed the arms he offered. But in between us was a secret man who had visited my dreams. And the first night after Hayden and I became familiar, he showed up to take what he believed belonged to him. I woke up with scratches on my arms from fighting against him, and that was when the handsome face turned into the gory, bloody face of a creature that had a forked tongue and a smell that made me gag. It started coming in at me with lopsided eyes and half-sawed lips peeking at me through my hanging clothes in the closet. It started to blow cold air in my feet when I left them out in the open and not under the covers. It bit my shoulders and left me running, trying to stay awake in the dark and sleeping in the light. I cursed it over and over until one day he reminded me that I had summoned his presence because I had begged him to take me. Babe, Hayden said as he tied his shoelaces, sitting on the couch, wearing his leather jacket and jeans. My grandmother sent me the location of this temple. We can go visit to get you some blessed strings. I felt my heart light up with glee. I was leaning against the kitchen counter, still in my PJs, as Hayden stood and brushed his black hair back with a smooth movement. I was so in love with his bad boy look. Where is it? About an hour drive from here, not that far. You think you can take off Friday? He asked as he came to gather me in his arms. I wanted to get a hotel for the weekend and maybe take you sightseeing too. We haven't been anywhere in a while. This Friday? I don't know because it's always a busy day. He kissed my nose. I'm sure Frank can find someone to cover for you. I smiled and hugged him. Well, keep me in your prayers. I worked at Frank's Corner, a locally owned bar where I had bartended. My regulars gave me good tips, and Frank was an okay boss as long as his wife and him didn't fight, which had been happening a lot more often than needed. He came in grumpy and blamed everyone for his problems at home. Those days, we just tried to stay away from him and hoped he would come around soon. Friday was 4 days away, and I wasn't sure if Frank would appreciate me wanting to take off on such short notice. When I walked into the bar, the fans on the ceilings were turned on, and Billie Jean from Michael Jackson was playing softly. I dropped my purse into the bottom drawer behind the counter and locked it as I walked to the back room to find Frank. Frank? I yelled out. Where are you? In here, doll. I heard his eastern drawl from his office, and I walked in to find his feet propped up against the table and him leaning back to read some invoices. Frank was a typical New Yorker who cursed like crazy and ate pizza like it was the next best thing in life. He loved opera music and thought the small towners were goonies set out to murder you with a toothpick. What's up, doll? He asked as he dropped his feet and stood up. Why are you here so early? Your shift don't start until another 2 hours. I smiled at him, ready to play the part to get Friday off. I wanted to put in some extra hours. You want something else, Lena. What is it? Quit tugging on my chain and just lay it out. I sighed deeply. Fine. I need Friday off. Something has come up unexpected and I have to go out of town. What? Did somebody die? Shaking my head, I replied, No. Then why you gotta go, huh? You can't expect me to give you Friday off 4 days before you need it. Everyone else got problems too, Lena, and it's far worse than you needing to get out of town. Frustrated, I crossed my arms. Frank, I'm willing to work 2 extra hours today without pay. He looked up at me and then smiled. I'm listening. I really need Friday off, and I'm willing to exchange any shifts with others this week. If I have to work overtime, I will, and I will work for free. Frank laughed and sat back down. You got away, doll. You should have been a cop. Lord knows some of those need a good training on how to smooth talk somebody. All right. Get out here, doll. I'll find somebody to do a shift on Friday.
I wanna give you a million things, cause isn't love what it's all about? And how to make you smile again is something that I wanna figure out. I wanna catch you like every time that you fall. I wanna give you the world that is outside your walls. If I was God, I would save you, take you where you belong. If I could, I would give something new. Then I would have what it takes, make you feel like you're safe. Cause all I need is just someone like you.
Waldemar. The first time I saw her, she was so broken, sobbing at the riverfront, on her knees, her small body shivering in pain. She was the rarest of woman I had ever seen, and the very breath let out in sobs gut me. I wanted to reach out and hold her, wash away her pain, and kiss her wounds. The more I listened, the deeper I fell in love, and when she stood up, brushing the dirt from her hand, I took my golden chain and whisked her spirit with me. I had to have her. That night when I visited her and held her in my arms, comforting her until she had nothing left to cry out but dry heaves, I knew immediately that she would be mine forever. If I had to slowly woo her, I would, because something in her begged for me. It had pleaded for me, calling me out in an achingly tearful plea that robbed my sanity. She needed me. I would give it to her. But a year after I branded her body as mine, someone entered her life, and her heart began to turn cold toward me. She didn't look at me the same way anymore, and when I visited her, she turned me away. The darkness in me came out and threatened her safety, but she hated me more and began crying out for me to leave her alone. Perhaps I was coming on too strong, so I left her and went back to my queen for a fortnight, where all thoughts were of her. But now I knew why she was retaliating against me. She was in love with someone else. I wouldn't allow it. I would never allow it. Back at home, my queen had uttered words of disdain against me for leaving the cold bed. She would never age. She would never understand pain. She would never appreciate life the way my Lena did. She would never compare. She was simply there to benefit the people of my land and nothing beyond that. That morning when we had our spat, I felt the heated glare of her eyes on me, and I knew that everything had changed. Centuries ago, she was patient and enduring, and now she was going to wage war against me. She would prove to lose sorely, and I would watch as she licked her wounds. I could not love her the same as I did because I never truly loved her to begin with. We were matched to fit together to create an image. I had injured her, but she would heal as she always did, and life would go on as it always had. When I arrived outside the doorsteps of Lena's home, I heard a light laughter that made my heart giddy. It was her sound, innocent and sweet, just like her. And as I entered the home, I found her sitting on the couch with him. They were enjoying a movie together, his arms wrapped around her, and jealousy reeked in me. He was a tall, strong man, good-looking enough, but what did he have that I lacked? The hand touching her shoulder tightened, and then I watched as he leaned over and kissed her gently. Anger flared at me as she closed her eyes and leaned in toward him. "I'm scared to sleep," she whispered. "Will you make sure I'm sleeping soundly before you doze off?" He nodded and leaned into her. "Of course, baby. I got you. You know that." I hissed and left, returning to the palace walls where I found Bellamy sitting by the fire. Her dark eyes watched me with a satisfied, dazzling glow. "Forced to exit and return here, my lord?" she asked. "I see that your absence is quite welcomed in her world, too." I roared and reached her in 3 strides where I clutched her throat. "Your tongue is a spell I intend to rip out, my lady." Laughing, she whispered, "Then satisfy your hunger and do it so that my blood may bleed crimson in your halls. I am positive your people will not dance in it as I have been the only light in this darkened gloom." I shoved her off. "Silence your voice." She stood up and cackled. "You arrive with such a dark mood and cannot even see that my love for you is valid and present. You'd rather wait in the darkened corner for a mortal whose flesh can sink and rot with time. What worth is that, my lord?" "Rot or not, her smile and laughter will always heal while yours brings nothing but frustration of annoyance. Hold on to your jealousy, wife, as that will be the only thing I am gifting you for an eternity. Heir, names, and status have been stripped from me to you already. Now it is my time to entertain my desires, and if you stand in my way, I shall make sure you become flightless." Thank you for tuning in. Chapter 2 will be out shortly.
You tossed me like a stone. You swept me off my feet. I can't feel my bones. I still count the days. You swept me off my feet. I keep going high, she keeps going low.